Hello, this is Pupu Noob, and this is just a small little announcement before the interview starts. Super fun to talk to Adam. I'm just recording this right after the interview. So basically, there's a little bit of a ringing sound from Adam's side. I believe he believes it's the air conditioning, and there's really not much I can do. So I hope you guys are okay with it, because the interview is really fun. He has experience in like triple-E movies. He worked in the Harry Potter stuff and the Chronicles of Narnia. It's a really good interview, and it was really fun talking to him. So I hope that the ringing sound. First off, the ringing sound, you're not hallucinating. There is a ringing sound, and second, I hope the ringing sound doesn't bother you too much. But yeah, get on with the interview. Hello, I'm Pupu Noob, back again with another game developer interview. This time I have Adam Folse of Wisp Entertainment, one of the co-founders, and the game that they're developing right now is called Attack On Kitten. Yes, it's a game about cats, and the name is a pun on Attack on Titan. It's a play on Attack on Titan. I'm sure it is. It is, isn't it?
It was actually a placeholder name at first, but it ended up sticking. So
right. So you are also an art instructor at the Academy of Interactive Entertainment in Lafayette.
Yes. I've been teaching here for about 5 years.
Nice. And you've been, and you are also, you focus on 3D animation and visual effects, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So before that, let's break the ice a little bit. What are your favorite games of all time?
Ooh. That's a good question. So, for the game, or for Attack on Kitten, you can really tell Mega Man X has been a big inspiration for me throughout all of the games that I design and try to make. But I'd say my favorite game of all time is this kind of one of those cult classic hits for Xbox called Phantom Dust.
Ooh, and apparently they were thinking of remaking or something, I believe.
Yeah, when I heard they were going to remake it, I got so excited, and then it just kind of fell off the radar and made me very sad. But no, I sunk so many hours into that back in high school with me and my friends. We just LAN up a bunch of Xboxes and play that.
I feel you. I also love a lot of cult classics, I guess. Steamboat Chronicles is one of my favorites, and there's no way there's going to be a sequel or remake or whatever of that. So all I can do is play it on my PS2 emulator now. So, what else do you like to play? Are you playing anything recently?
Right now, I'm just on a big Blizzard kick. I'm switching between Overwatch, Hearthstone, and Heroes of the Storm for the most part. But I just got Mass Effect Andromeda, so I'm trying to get through that right now. I'm just starting off, but.
Are you using it as a case study of what not to do in your class?
Pretty much.
Seriously, that was just a joke.
I mean, there's definitely some examples that I can draw from it for them, but I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect series in general, so I at least want to give it a chance. But right now, I'm just getting past the prologue, so it is pretty rough. Definitely a different team worked on it, so I'm going to give it a chance, though.
But they recently patched it, and there's a pretty big improvement. Like the lighting on the face is much better. The eyelids doesn't make you look like a ghost anymore, and it just looks better. And they actually animated the face. Tell us about Attack on Kitten. What is that all about?
Yeah, so Attack on Kitten. It's a game we've been working on kind of off and on. We all have jobs outside of this for about a year now. It's a game where you play as a knight who wields magical cats as her weapons. So the creator of the game, Megan, it was actually her senior project. She's one of my students, actually, who had graduated. And I loved the idea so much. After she graduated, my company approached her and was like, Ken, do you want to join the team? And then we'll help you make this. So we actually had a small just proof of concept at PAX 2 years ago to see if people would have interest in it. It was actually at the AIE table, and people loved it. So we decided to go that full production on that, well, part-time production on that. And we brought it actually back to PAX South this year. Great response. Since then, we've just been slowly cranking it out. So if you like cats and killing evil fish, it's a game that you want to try out.
Right. What inspired the game?
So Megan, our arcade, the creator of the game, absolutely crazy about cats. So between her and her mom, they have 6 cats, 2 different houses. But big inspiration for all of this was just, again, she wanted to make a game that fused 2 of her favorite things in the world, which is kind of the magical girl element anime and being able to be with your cats. So it actually started off as more of like a Castle Crashers type game. It was supposed to be isometric. You had waves of fish enemies, but it wasn't really working for. It actually was even 3D at first, and we kind of rethought the idea. How would we want to redo it? And she was really interested in kind of taking it to a platformer direction. And I suggested pixel art, and we ended up where we are now.
Right, and I take it because you're an art instructor, you're in charge of the art, I'm guessing.
Well, I mean, I definitely refer everything back to Megan. She's, I say, is lead artist, but all of the animations are really like my final polish on that, all the sprite animations, and just kind of, I do a lot of the foreground elements while she handles the background. What she'll do is she'll actually sketch up what it's supposed to look like in Photoshop, and then I take that and I turn it into sprite art and place it accordingly. So it's a really good collaboration.
Right. Tell us a bit about yourself. Like, what did you do before you were teaching? How did you get into teaching? And how did you guys started up Wisp Entertainment?
Yeah. So let's go back a little ways then. When I was in college, me, Van Phelan, and Sam Perkins, the other guys from Wisp, actually took a college course together on video game design. We made a little class project called Steambout, which is like an arena combat thing with steampunk themes, and we went on with our lives after that. And then after graduating, I got into the film industry. I worked on Harry Potter. I worked on the Chronicles of Narnia. I got about 21 movie credits under my belt. And then while I was working there, Sam and Van approached me kind of out of the blue, and they're like, hey, let's, we know how to make a game. We've done it. Let's make a company. So we formed Wisp Entertainment in 2012. And then shortly thereafter, I actually started teaching. So I had an opportunity to start teaching at AIE. They looked at all the movies I had worked on, and they wanted me to teach the students how to do VFX work, some 3D animation. And then the rest, I guess, is history. We actually started off making a fighting game at first, which is still in the works. But we understand the challenge of trying to introduce a fighting game into the market. Right. If you're not Capcom, why even try, basically? But
I think the most popular indie fighter is Skullgirls, and I can't really think of anything else. That is not from one of the big companies.
Exactly. There's a couple that are kind of peeking in, Rising Thunder, and the Rivals of Aether, which is
right. There are
like
a couple
of
like Smash Bros style games. It's something that we don't have on PC, so there is a market.
Yeah. But it's just been, we realized, like, do we want to try to jump into that as our first thing, or try to get noticed with something that's a bit more diverse in the target audience? So we saw a really big opportunity with Attack on Kitten after bringing it to PAX. So we said, this is what we need to do first. This is what people really want. So let's do this for now, and then come back to the fighting game later.
Right. So how was that transition like from movies to games? How was that?
It was a pretty big jump. As far as like the technical requirements, because making models for movies is very different. You have
Right.
it's all rendered, not real time. So I didn't have to worry too much about optimization and stuff like that.
Right.
But because of the classes I had taken in college, it wasn't too foreign. I just had to do a lot of research. We watched a ton of tutorials. We actually taught ourselves Unreal when we first formed it, because that's what we were going to do the fighting game in. But it's been really interesting, because what I teach allows me to do a lot of research for students, but it ends up teaching me a lot of things I don't know in the process. So I've learned a lot through teaching here, and I use a lot of that whenever I actually go to make my own stuff.
So when you were brought on to AIE, was it more just for visual effects in general and not really about games?
It was a bit of both. So most of what I was doing at first was just the basics of 3D modeling and texturing, and then the compositing aspect I was very, very used to. That's what I did all day, every day. So the film students, I had known everything I needed to teach them. But for the game students, I actually ended up having to teach myself Unity. I had to learn the different workflows for that to teach them how to do it. And then throughout each year, it's just gotten better and better. But now, since we actually have a couple more teachers, I focus mainly on the film side of things now. But I still make games on the side. So I get a little bit of the best of both worlds here.
Right. So can you tell us a bit about your work environment, like the hardware, the software, and like any other tools or communication tools that you use between your team?
Yeah, so right now, the communication tools is that we're all sitting in Van's living room. So the work studio for us is his house. As far as like the software we're using, all of the artwork for the game is done in Photoshop. All of the game itself is made inside of Game Maker Studio 2. So we got into the beta back in December for it, and we ended up moving everything over. Before, we were using this thing called the Ogmo editor and Flashpunk to make the game, but it was kind of straining with some of the amount of sprite work we were doing, and it wasn't really packaging it as tightly as we had wanted. So we saw an opportunity with Game Maker Studio 2, and we're like, okay, this is going to be tough, but let's do it. So like a month before PAX this year, we ported it over, had to basically rewrite all the logic. Luckily, we didn't have to redo the art assets necessarily, because that was all there, but I made a whole bunch more. We implemented a whole new zone for PAX, all of that within a month, and it was a really big challenge. But when you're sitting right next to the person, it's a lot easier to go like, hey, give me that sprite. I need that right now. Right.
So you were at PAX South in San Antonio in January, right?
Yes.
How was the reception there? And what kind of feedback did you get?
Oh, it was great. So we actually ended up running like speedrun tournaments of the demo there. Nice. So we had 2 different setups. People were finding really, really crazy ways to get around, letting the fish like knock you through other ones, and a lot of really cool stuff just within the 2 days. The overall reception was great. Like, people really liked it. Of course, the name stopped a lot of people to come see, like, what is Attack on Kitten? What is this? And then they come over. Some of them were disappointed that there weren't giant cats in the game.
Right.
But most of them, once they saw, the cats actually changing into the weapons, were immediately sold. They wanted to know more. We sent out a ton of different like promotional materials, and we didn't even have like a downloadable demo at that time. So we had to people like, hey, it's going to be up soon. It's going to be up soon. So a lot of our work after coming back from PAX was just getting that ready. But it was so much fun. We met a lot of cool people. We actually got a couple of good contacts for different artists who wanted to work with us, different musicians who wanted to work with us. And that's actually why we launched the Kickstarter, was so we could get a little extra money to help pay people to actually come work on it with us, because at the rate we're going right now, it's going to take quite a bit of time to finish it. But we're hoping to speed up the process. We'll see how it goes.
So I actually played that demo, and to be honest, in the beginning, it was like, is that it? and and then I reached
Yeah.
I reached a boss fight, and I was like, am I supposed to die here? And then I got the first cat that turned into the sword, and it was
Mhm.
pretty damn cool. So how did you guys get into PAX? What was your how did you guys get into the door and have a booth there?
Well, luckily, because of my ties with the school, the one of the let's see, the head of marketing actually is part of the board for PAX Australia.
Oh,
So we had a little bit of it in there, but I mean, pretty
nice.
much any indie developer can get into PAX if you apply early enough.
Mm,
But it's just most of the booth price is what scares a lot of small
right,
companies
right.
away. So luckily, I had a savings just for that. So
Nice. So so when I played the demo, I felt that the character is quite heavy. Like
mhm.
it's not super mobile. Like when I jump, I feel like I land too fast, or I was just like didn't really get used to it. Was that a deliberate decision, or is that gonna change over time?
I mean, for the most part, the physics of the character are pretty much locked in.
Mm,
The idea, though, is that as you get the other cats, your mobility is going to increase exponentially.
right, right.
So other ones that aren't in the demo now that you're going to end up getting is, well, you saw push in boots, so that's
Right.
your dash.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
that alone is a
that one
humongous,
helped so much.
yeah. And you're going to get him very early on in the game as well.
Mm,
The idea is that you'll be getting one per zone for the most part, and then the one you get will help you traverse that zone.
right.
But there is going to be a cape that allows you to glide. You're going to get. We actually introduced this on the Kickstarter not too long ago. His name's Mittens. It's the only one without a crazy legendary name.
Right.
That's going to give you wall sliding like in Mega Man X, so you can climb up walls with that. All of the cats are going to be upgradable, so eventually you can air dash. Eventually you can just scale walls. You can kind of like dip your glide like in Super Mario. And then the last weapon you get, which I'm not going to say the name yet because we're going to be doing a reveal soon for that. But that'll allow you to actually, when you attack, kind of think Pikachu's quick attack from Smash Brothers, kind of dash and then
Right,
pick a
right.
direction.
Right.
So between all of those, by the end of the game, you're not going to really feel that weight because for the most part, you'll be moving through abilities rather than actually just walking. Because it's that whole idea, like with again Mega Man X, that you see the hero who comes save you, and you're like, man, she's so much better at everything than I am, and then you eventually become that. So
Right, right. Um, so as a teacher, as a lecturer, and you got into the business through through the film industry,
mhm.
what would you tell someone who wants to get into like game development? It could be for like maybe art or music or anything like that.
Mhm.
But would you tell them to go like to get an education very specialized into game development? Is that the intelligent thing to do now?
As far as right now, I know that it's been this way and it's always going to be this way. Is can you do it? If you're coming into the studio, they want to see that A, can you complete the work? Two, can you do it faster than the other people that I'm going to hire there? So the specialization really, really helps because you get that extra exposure time. I actually graduated from a traditional four-year school in the U.S., and it was very fine arts oriented. So, like,
Right.
think going to a gallery sort of thing. Even for the animation classes I took, it was like, let's make a movie to show at a film festival.
Right. Right.
And coming out of that, I started to apply to places, and they were like, well, what's your work experience? What can you do? And I was like, oh, well, I know these softwares, kind of. And they go, well, okay, can you show me? And I was like, oh, geez, I didn't even prepare for this. I just thought I was going to hand them a resume and show them my film. But no, they actually want to see your skill set and make sure that you know what you're doing, which is like at AIE where I teach, the whole thing is like studio based. So when I teach, it's like I run the classroom like an actual studio. So when they leave here, they're using the right software, they're using the right version control. And when they go to apply, they go, hey, look, I already know the workflow. Cool. Well, then we'll just bring you in, show you how we handle our files, and then they're good to go. It's kind of like, I feel like the like trade school type training is better for this industry, just because why do I need to possibly take a geography class? Maybe if you're an environment artist, but if you're a character artist, why would that matter? So just kind of, focusing on what you enjoy doing and just putting as much time and effort into it so that you're good enough to actually work with anyone else who's in the industry.
How crazy was the crunch times when you were working on movies?
It got a little ridiculous at times, especially on Harry Potter. We were working 70-hour weeks toward the end, so 10 hours a day. And luckily, one of the guys we worked with lived in an apartment complex across the street from the studio, and we would actually just like go over to his place to take a nap, get a shower, and then come back. So we could just do that. But no, it was crunch time. Actually, IMAX had dropped a bunch of their shots on us, and we were like, okay, let's get going. So a studio of 200 for them, we had a studio of 20. So we had to pull the extra man hours to make it work. And a lot of times we'd just do like rotation shifts, so someone was always there. But that was probably the most extreme experience I had, but a lot of overtime, so that was nice. So
I'm just going to assume that you have students coming to you and saying like they want to work at a AAA company. So what do you tell them? Because you worked in like basically AAA movies, right? And there's definitely some parallels there, like with the hierarchy, the work hours. Like, so what do you tell them? Like chill with your expectations or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to make them a little bit more humble about all of this. It's a very competitive field, and the big thing is if the student is talented enough, if they've put enough work into it, there's nothing stopping them from getting the job at that AAA place. It's just tough to stand out. So we try to get creative with the demo reels and show them something they maybe haven't seen yet, or show them something that's very high tier for someone of their age and show their value for growth. And that's pretty much everything. I teach them to kind of specialize in the one thing that they're very good at, especially if they want to shoot for that AAA studio. Ones who might want to form their own company or go to something smaller, I try to round them out so they know everything. So that's not just a character artist. Maybe they do environment stuff. Maybe they do animation and character rigging and implementation into engine. So like those are the people who want to do their own games. We just try to jack of all trades, train them for that. Right.
And so you have a demo, which will have a link in the description below. You know where to find all the stuff. So you have a demo. It's also up on your Kickstarter. You download it from your website. There's this among the I guess the indie game industry. I guess there's this thinking where some people think a demo is really important, especially if you're going to do a Kickstarter. A demo is really important to show what is potentially going to happen. Because people are putting in money for something that's not there yet, right? And the demo is something tangible that they can see and play. But there's also another side where they say the demo, number one, is a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to make a demo. And number two is, I've also heard the argument of they'll get bored. Like, okay, I played the demo. There's nothing else to see here. So so you made a demo. So I just wanted to know like what's your take on that particular element.
For the most part, the demo was at the time just the current progress we had in the game. And we made it to take to conventions more than anything. So when we go to PAX, when we go there, the fact that we used it there was no plans to have it done for a Kickstarter. We already had it. So we just decided, why not share it? We do understand the risks of that, because if people think, oh, this game sucks, and it's like, well, it's just the demo. But I think without it, though, it would have been a lot tougher to get attention. I don't know if it actually swung the Kickstarter one way or the other. As people, I'm sure, if they click on the link down there, may see, not doing too hot at the moment. We got 1 other week, so we're going to be pushing it really, really hard. But finding that exposure is tough. I've sent out emails and press releases to 40 some odd websites, local news. I've sent it to different streamers, different YouTubers, and you see maybe 1 in every 20 emails gets a reply, and then maybe half of those are yes. So
right.
The thing that we're a very small company, we're inexperienced when it comes to marketing a game. So like we've made tons of games, little demos. We've done tons of game jams. We know how to push out a product, but we've never actually had to sell one yet. So we're learning a lot through this process. We actually recently joined an IDGA group so that we could talk to other game developers and ask them about their marketing strategies and stuff like that. We met a lot of great people here in Louisiana who've actually succeeded at Kickstarters and given us some feedback. A lot of it from their perspective is like it's actually a lot harder now because of the saturation on Kickstarter, and just because you pretty much have to have a fan base already there before you do the Kickstarter. And it's like, well, how do we get attention? It's like for Kickstarter, if we want to do a Kickstarter, try to get fans. So it's one of those catch-22s for us right now. But we'll definitely are going to be picking up the circuit again and hitting up conventions and stuff like that to try to spread the word. But I feel short of a big streamer or YouTuber picking it up, it's going to be really tough to try to finish off this Kickstarter successfully.
Right. So what have you learned managing this Kickstarter and creating this campaign? Because like you said, currently at the time of this interview is 16 days left, and you have about 7,900, and your goal is 50,000. So
yeah.
So like what have you learned? Did you feel like you could have done something else, or maybe you could have done it later?
Well, right now, this is all just speculation. Like I don't know numbers or anything like that, or
right.
what I didn't do right. But definitely could have waited until somehow building a fan base sooner. I'm not sure how we could have done that. We're still trying to figure that one out. But maybe, I mean, one thing for sure that we figured out was the social media aspect of it. You need someone to do that full time for the Kickstarter. We actually had a big response the first week. A lot of emails, a lot of questions, a lot of feedback, especially during the green light. And we were not ready for the sheer volume of it. And then trying to stay organized between 3 people answering emails was really tough. So we actually ended up taking on a social media assistant for just this. So that's another Megan. She came onto the team.
I was wondering, is it the same person?
No. So we have 2 Megans.
Right.
So Megan Minert is helping us with all the social media stuff. So she answers the emails. She does the Twitter. She does the Instagram. She helps with all of the different blog postings and stuff like that. But mostly she's there to answer people's questions.
Right.
So she started doing a lot of Discord channel stuff recently, which has got us a lot of good feedback and stuff. So now the Greenlight campaign actually went fantastic. We launched it the same day as the Kickstarter. We thought that would help with some kind of cross-promotion deal. We think we probably could have just done the Greenlight by itself maybe a month ago and then had a little bit more, fan base before doing the Kickstarter.
Right.
But it only took us 7 days to get greenlit, and
super fast.
Yeah, and then we had the demo up the next week. Anyone else who is considering putting a game on Greenlight, I know it's about to change. We got the way you enter it's going to be different now. But the Greenlight page itself, the tools, are super user-friendly and awesome. The actual Steam page itself is not. So there's a lot more to it, especially this setting up all the financial aspects of it for payments. Like you have to have all of your bank and company information for them, tax information. Just the tools are janky. They're old and kind of outdated.
Yeah.
but it's just like they haven't changed it since they opened Steam. But then they made
Probably.
Greenlight, and it's like
Yeah.
so much better. I was like, if they
Because
just
new,
make it the
right.
same, yeah.
Right.
You can't even put animated GIFs in the Steam
yeah.
page, but you can
Yeah.
put them on Greenlight.
Right.
So I don't know why it's on one but not the other, but that was a bit of surprise because we thought it was just going to be like, oh, click it and now it's a Steam page, and then we
Right.
ended up having to take a couple days to like, oh well, how do we even do this? And they actually have tutorials on how to do it through Steam, so we had to watch tutorials to put up our game on the platform it was already on.
Right.
and then when you upload a demo, it doesn't display properly on the Steam page. It doesn't give you the description of the game or anything. It just says like these weird little codes, and that's just a known issue, and they don't plan on like fixing it anytime soon. So it's just like, well, this looks janky, but we were checking other Kickstarters, and theirs looks just like ours. So like it's got the same little thing. I'm not too worried about it. Like it's not going to stop people from playing it 'cause you've already downloaded it by that point. But just again, if you are going to be like, if you're greenlit, be prepared to do a lot of work to get it up on Steam for real.
Right. So, what do you hope to get out of this campaign? This Kickstarter
The
campaign, I mean.
Yeah. Well, the main thing for us was just we can finish the game eventually. It's tough because we all work outside of this, but we really we were hoping that the Kickstarter was going to give us that freedom to take off, to hire new people on, and get
Right.
the game done. Hopefully, I was thinking we could get it done within this year if we actually had the extra income for it. And the biggest thing for us is also we needed to pay a musician to score the whole thing. We don't have a musician on the team. We're all big music fans and advocates. Like we're super like we know that the soundtrack has to be as good as everything else. And between games like Shovel Knight and Undertale with these fantastic soundtracks, it's like that
Right.
is half the game. You don't even think about it, but that's what made the games feel as good as they could. So the music we do have in there was done by a friend of ours, and
It's really good, actually. I really like it.
Yes, yeah, people love it, and like we've got a lot of good feedback on the music that's in there already, but we can't afford to pay him to do more, and then also there's a weird. He lives about 3 hours away from us, and trying to get feedback immediately and make changes in a timely manner is just it's not happening.
Right.
So we're kind of struggling with the long distance relationship of the musician aspect. But if we could afford to actually pay them, we could just say, here's the money. I'm hoping that all of the stages would be done by that point, and they would be able to play through them, get a feel for each zone, and then write the track for them. Because that was actually what was really interesting is we had the first level done by the time we asked him to do it. So he was able to actually play through that and then write the song around it, and it turned out great. We had amazing results from trying it that way, and that's the way we hope to do it in the future, once we can actually afford to pay one. We're trying a couple different people we have in mind to do it. One of them we actually met in Houston last year for this thing called Replay. It's a convention, and we're actually going to be going back this year, and hopefully he's there again, so we can start talking with him about doing it. But no, we definitely want to stay true to the current feel of the music, but we need enough for the entire game, not just the 2 tracks that we have in there right now.
Yeah. So, how much content is being planned for this game? Like just like from the start to end, like the base game, how much content is there gonna be?
Well, I would say first playthrough, I was hoping it would be somewhere around 4 hours of play. There are some. Don't quote me on the number because it may change, but about 11 different zones, and then you have your 9 cat weapons. So one of them is a dual weapon. You may see that from like the Kickstarter icon. There's 2 cats next to each other. So you collect them throughout the beginning of the game, and then the later bit of the game, you'll have all of your cats together, and then you have to kind of rescue the kingdom. So, again, it's still a lot of it is up in the air, but most of it for the beginning portion of the game has been planned out. We know for sure what the beginning zones are going to be like. We're pulling a lot of influence from other great games as far as like stage design and layout for platforming. There's actually going to be a couple of homages, and even in the demo, if anyone's a big fan of Donkey Kong Country, there's a particular part in one of the first zones where the way the platforms are stacked and they have a little vaulter that shoots the coconuts down. Mm-hmm. We recreated that with a stack just like that with the clam on top that shoots the three coming down. There'll be a little tributes and references to other games. So like people who are very familiar with platformers will be like, hey, I think that's part of Flashman's stage right here, or something along those lines. And like that's on purpose. And we want to kind of just have those little sparks of nostalgia speckled in here and there. But the rest of it is stuff that we're designing the layouts, and we've gotten a lot of feedback actually even for the platforming aspect from PAX. And because Game Maker City is so great, people kept falling in this one spot, and we were like, why don't we change it? So in between playthroughs, we actually just changed the platform layout, pushed a new build, and put them on the computers right there. So making changes is super fast for actual platform placement inside of Game Maker. But we're learning a lot as we go. Van, our lead programmer, is also our game designer, and he's an avid fan of platformers and games, and I would say a gigantic critic of all those games as well. So he knows what is, I would say this, what's fun. That's kind of our big quote. And so he puts the base layout. We actually do playtest nights. What's really great is I have a humongous sample set for my students. So like at lunch, I'll be like, hey guys, new build's up. Who wants to play it? Give me feedback. So they'll actually play. I get about 40 people playing my game. Hey, you can get stuck here. I'm like, oh, thanks. And then I'll like make a list of
free
stuff.
Game
So I got my little,
cool.
yeah, exactly. I mean, they love doing it. They're big fans of my game, and I even have two of them who I pay them, but I can't have them very often. But like the tiki fish, the little one with the mask, was actually done by one of my students. The initial design for the jungle, we actually brought in some students to do some concepting work, and we worked with one of their designs to kind of push the final look. So I like to give them a chance, if they really like the game, to contribute something to it. I even had a student who's now graduated who helped with some of the run cycles for the cats initially. So he just took my base one and redrew them with the other cats. So I like to really give them a chance, to put some work into things that they love. And the big thing is just I'd like to be able to pay them to work full time on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So just going back to AIE for a bit, they've been helping you spread the word a little bit, right?
Yeah. So through our social media pages, they've done that. Even the owner of the company, John DeMargariti, actually donated quite a bit to our Kickstarter. So they're being very supportive of it. All of their students who are working on their own indie games, they are 100% behind. We're actually I don't know if we're the only anymore, but we're definitely one of the very few non-for-profit gaming colleges. So everything we do is to really for the student. And when they do come up with the next big game idea, we're not going to try to make money off of it because we can't. But we want them to succeed and actually make that studio work, because that's potentially great for them. It's good word for us because they're our students, and also our students may go work for them because they know what to do because they took the same courses. So very much a win-win for everything. So seeing as like the game was created by a graduate from AIE, they're 100% behind us and try to help us in every way that they can, which has been fantastic. I even, during my office hours, it's okay for me to be working on sprite art. Like they don't,
Right.
they're as long as the work's getting done and the kids know everything, they let me make changes while I'm here.
So I just wanted to know your opinion on this. The gaming industry is really well known for not particularly being very stable for the employees, right? Especially in AAA.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are on contract. They don't get like full-time employee benefits,
Mm-hmm.
crunch time, which is just a thing that everybody they just do it. So
Yeah.
that one of the arguments is because there's just a lot of people that wants to make games. Like
Mm-hmm.
once you quit, there's somebody else that's willing to take your place for even lower salary, maybe. So
Mm-hmm.
so do you think there's just a bit of a just too much saturation in talent? Do you feel? Do you think this is an issue at all?
I think it is and isn't. There's definitely a saturation of, I would say, middle tier artists. A lot of people who they grew up as fans, they want to make games, they get
Right.
into it, and they don't really stand out in the crowd. That, of course, there's always that risk in that category of being cycled out.
Right.
But those who really stand out, those who really are like above the rest, they are, they're paid to not leave, especially once they're big enough in the company. So yes and no. It's just a lot of people aren't willing to put in the extra, I would say, that's kind of jaded to say, but to put in that extra work and make themselves that integral to the workflow,
Right.
it's kind of messed up in a way. You got to make for security's purposes, I would say, is if you're so important to the company that they can't replace you, or it would take two people to replace you, then you're doing something right. So they're not going to get rid of you if it's going to be more expensive. So being a well-rounded artist, being a well-rounded programmer who can be used in multiple aspects of the company or on different titles at once, or working on different parts in one title, is really how you find longevity in the studio industry. And there are some companies who are worse than others. I know a lot of companies who are great in retaining their employees. I know that when I was working in the film industry, I started off as a grunt. I did very little important things. I did rotoscoping, which is essentially tracing, and I was always at risk of being replaced if I couldn't do my work. But I got so good at it and I was so fast that they ended up promoting me to a compositor, and then I got so important with that when we did get downtime and we didn't have a movie to work on, there was a core group of about 4 to 8 people who basically got to sit there and do nothing because they couldn't afford for us to leave. So the 2-3 weeks in between the films, we would just kind of build tutorials for incoming employees is what they would do. That's how they would refocus us. But that's, I'm one of the few examples who gets to do that, but that's my advice, at least. It just becomes so important to them that they can't afford to lose you.
Right. So we're reaching the end.
Yeah.
I just want to know, what are any recent movies that you watched that you thought was really beautiful? Like, oh my god, those effects are really gorgeous.
Let's see. So I think the one that like really just blew me away, and especially once I found out afterwards what they had done, was actually Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
When I found out the amount of practical effects are in there, I was just floored. I was like, wow, it's absolutely fantastic. The things that were CG were so flawlessly done, you didn't even know. Like, you forget that, what's the actress's name? Sigourney? No, that's
Mad
Alien.
Max?
Yeah, Mad Max. What's her name?
Charlize Theron?
Yeah, Charlize Theron. You forget that arm isn't actually there.
Right.
Her mechanical arm was so flawlessly done that you forget, and that's I was completely in the zone for the movie. They sold me. Everything was super believable. None of the effects seemed too outrageous for the world that it was in. And it just like, I think that is like modern day. That's how all movies should be. That's what they should be shooting for, instead of just your Michael Bay Transformers, super close up of a blender full of aluminum foil kind of look,
Right. So yeah, any last words about the game Attack on Kitten?
Yes. So definitely, if you haven't at this point, go download the demo. We got a lot of great things in store. I think we're going to have one last big build that we're going to be pushing soon. The core implementations of all the cats are programmed in now, so everything is functioning. I just need to finish the artwork. So the big thing is just going to be designing all the boss fights and pushing all the background art assets. We're hard on work on that for you guys, and we're going to get it to you as soon as we can, so be patient with us. Also, keep in touch on Facebook, because we'll be doing a lot of contest giveaways. We're going to have opportunities for people to get their cats in the game. So if you want your cat in the game, make sure you follow us on all our social media and find out how to do that.
Nice. I'll put all the relevant links in the description below, because that's where everything will be. So yeah, thank you very much, Adam Folse, for joining us and spending your time with us.
And thank you.
So yeah, to anyone that's watching and listening, thank you very much, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.